is right in that category from Jason. That's at Jason Kona 04. How likely do you see the Cowboys being willing to part with Micah Parsons? Jason, I think that it is still unlikely that they wind up trading Micah Parsons. However, think if you look at the argument, the disagreement, whatever you want to call it, between Micah Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence on Twitter last week, after Lawrence signed with the Seahawks, where they went back and forth a little bit, I think it reflects some of the feelings, some of the friction there is for Micah Parsons in that building in Dallas. And I think one of the big things about paying a guy, when you pay a guy at the level that they would have to pay Micah Parsons to retain him over a longer period of time, you want the entire organization behind it. You want the entire organization to feel good about it, because that player, whether you like it or not, is going to be a leader for you. Now, he can lead a bunch of different ways. He can be a leader in the traditional sense. You have a C on his chest. He is leading, stretching. He is the guy who's speaking up in the locker room. He can be your traditional front of the locker room leader. He can also be a leader by example, and that can go one of two ways. All right, this can be a guy who doesn't say a lot, doesn't have to actively lead, but carries a big voice because of his stature on the team, because of the money he's making, because everybody in these locker rooms, whether they admit it or not, keeps score by salary. So you can lead one of two ways. You can either bring people the right way, or you can bring people the wrong way. And so the Cowboys know all of this. The Cowboys know that even if Micah Parsons isn't going to be the guy that's at the front of the room, addressing his teammates before a game, addressing his teammates after a game, addressing his teammates at halftime, getting in guys' faces at the sideline, on the sideline, everyone in that locker room is going to be watching how Micah Parsons conducts himself, what he's able to get away with, how he works, how he interacts with coaches, how he interacts with front office, how he interacts with staff, how he interacts with his teammates. And that's going to set the tone, because by giving a guy a contract like that, you are implicitly saying that is what we're paying. And so, I don't think Micah Parsons is a bad guy, but because there has been some of that friction over the course of time, and over the course of his 4 years in Dallas, that's something they're going to have to work through. I do think it's something they can get past. I think Micah Parsons badly wants to be a great player. Work ethic will never be a question with him. But I do think that there's a place that they're going to want to have. They're going to want to have him before they give him the sort of contract that he's going to command. So if I'm another team, I'm monitoring this closely. I'm keeping an eye on it. I do think that there is a level of unpredictability to this situation, over the next 6 months between now and the season opener in Dallas, whether or not they get something done, what it takes to get something done. But very clearly, Micah Parsons' contract, the average per year on that contract, the APY is going to start with a 4. It's going to be rich with guarantees, and it's going to set up a commitment where he is going to be a front of the locker room guy, one of the guys that has to set the example, that has to set the tone for you going forward. Again, because by signing him to such a contract, you are basically saying, like, this is what we stand for. This is who we stand for. This is who we are. If they can't get to that point with Micah, or there's any sort of friction, or the contract looks like it's going to be more difficult to do than they may believe it is here in March, maybe we're talking about something different. And I think that's where, if you're another team, you just have to keep calling. You call now, call a month from now, call 2 months from now, call 3 months from now, and just see where things are. The Cowboys, obviously, their recent history shows that these things drag out. The Ezekiel Elliott situation dragged almost to the season opener, and that was 6 years ago now. More recently, we saw the situations with Dak Prescott, and I said situations, it was multiple situations. Those contract negotiations dragged out. Last year's went right up to the season opener. CeeDee Lamb's contract situation led to a prolonged holdout. Is there a possibility they get Micah Parsons done in April or May or June? Yeah, that's possible. They've done those sorts of deals in the past too. They did one with Zach Martin years ago, where they were able to come to an agreement well before the beginning of the regular season. I think that's preferable, and I think you probably want to work aggressively, because it's such a big contract that you're going to want to know what you're working around. And maybe then at least you have an idea when teams call where you're at. But again, the Cowboys' history has shown us over the years that these things have tended to drag out into the summer. And again, if that happens, if you're another team, just keep calling. Again, don't think it's likely, but certainly I wouldn't rule it out completely.